Hello, my name's Loretta, and I'm 77 years old. That's right, 77, and I'm a fan of the booth. Sinister One, Keith Hayes. That's right, my favorite. He's like a adorable Sammy Davis Jr., but for the new age kids. And everybody that loves sports, because I love all that New England sports. The Boston Celtics, the New England Patriots. I don't even give a damn about the Jets or the Giants.
Actually enjoy treating your customers like a piece of shit, because that's how I felt when I went to the Alamo Draft House. Okay? You know what? I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to text in your little crappy-ass theater. It was too f***ing dark in that place for me to find my seat, alright? I was using my phone as a flashlight to get to my f***ing seat. So excuse me for using my phone in USA, United States of America, where you are free to text in a theater. I was not aware that I couldn't text in your theater, all right? I've texted in all the other theaters in Austin, and no one ever gave a fuck about what I was doing with my fucking phone, all right? And it was on silent. It wasn't on loud. It wasn't bothering anybody. You guys obviously were being assholes to me. And I'm sure that's what you do, you know, to rip people off. You take my money, and then you throw me out. You know, I will never be coming back to your Alamo Draft House or whatever. I'd rather go to a regular theater where people are actually polite. And, you know, I'm going to tell everyone about how you are. And I'm pretty sure you guys are being on purpose. So thanks for making me feel like a customer. Thanks for taking my money.
Deadass. Serious, I would hate me too. Look at me. Think he the shit. This nigga don't even increase his Air Forces. What the f***? Shut the fuck up, you lying.
Citizens of America. People of the Florida Alliance.
You gotta move!
And the Western forces of Texas and California will be welcomed back to these United States as soon as their illegal secessionist government is deposed.
You don't know what side they're fighting for.
Someone's trying to kill us. We are trying to kill them.
What's going on, everybody? You already know who it is. It's your girl, Remy Jones. I have a special announcement. May 18th, 2024, we are going to be at the PPAC for the Remy TV Influencer Awards Show. It's going to be so much fun. We're going to have local talent performing. We're going to have celebrities performing. We're going to have amazing presenters. And all proceeds are going to go towards a job training program. So this is a charity award show. And if you want to know how you can help, if you want to donate, if you want to sponsor, you could directly reach me at www.remytvmedia.com.
I ain't ever been betrayed by an enemy. That shit is only ever come from them saying friend to me. They so thought you was coming, but you been hiding behind all them friends. You just wanna play here, make so many times I played the fool and meant hell below. I'm too fly to be sitting here lonely, feeling for the ride, wanna put it on me. When you get inside and when I grind it, I can't deny it, feels so exciting, deeper is no restart.
If we're honest, who wants to road less travel? It's harder to teach us. Who wants the difficult route?
If you support safety in our schools, you will support the National Guard to come in here and keep our students safe.
People say, these students have changed. These students are lazy.
Your children aren't learning disability, they lazy.
Get students engaged so they don't want to skip classes, they want to be in their classrooms.
There are teachers in this profession who should not be teachers. There are teachers in this profession who don't care about children.
These students don't want to learn. No, the adults have changed. See, the parents don't have the back of the teachers.
He ain't slow. He ain't got no learning problem. His parents didn't give him a foundation.
Young people, as a nation, we sorely need the depth and breadth of your intelligence, character, and also your clarity.
Think about, in particular, the history of people that look like me who are getting cheated.
So if you're asking me right now as an educator, what's wrong with these kids? There's nothing wrong with them.
Teachers are the most important people in the world.
They're whimpering in fear, and we're sitting here scared of them.
Because if they get it right, they'll change the world because they're in charge of the most important resource, and that's our children.
shoot no deputy. Oh no, oh. I shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot no deputy. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Oscar Mike Radio is a proud podcast partner of Reach Across America Radio, heard every Thursday at 11 a.m. and Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern. They're also big supporters of the nonprofit I Got Your Six, Two Lives at Once. And with every wreath you sponsor through Oscar Mike Radio, $5 goes back to this great organization dedicated to making a difference in the lives of veterans, law enforcement, firefighters, and first responders battling PTSD. Two Lives at Once pairs these brave men and women together with dogs rescued from kill shelters. In this way, two lives are saved at the same time by saving each other. Donate now. Go to reachacrossamerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio to help. That's reachacrossamerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio.
Hi, my name is Al. I am a father and I have 2 kids. I also ride a motorcycle, so please check twice. Save a life. Motorcycles are everywhere.
For more information on sharing the road, visit mass.gov/R.
Master Yoda I am. And listen you must to HulaZoo.com.
Now, why would a slick little hustler like you want to sign up for this kind of abuse anyway?
I want to fly jets, sir.
My grandmama wants to fly jets.
I wanted it since I was a kid.
We're not talking about flying here, we're talking about character.
I've changed. I've changed since I've been here.
Hell, you have.
I've changed, sir.
No, you just polished up your act a little bit. You just shined it up. Now tell me what I want to hear. I want your DOR.
No, sir.
I want your DOR.
I ain't gonna quit.
Spell it. D-O-R.
I ain't gonna quit.
Yeah, then you can be free and you and your daddy can get drunk and go hole chasing together, huh?
No, sir.
DOR.
I ain't gonna quit.
All right, then you can forget it. You're out.
Don't you do it. Don't you. I got nowhere else to go. I got nowhere else to go. I got nothing else.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Yeah.
Can you dig it?
You like some motherfucking action heroes in this. Yeah. This is destiny. This is madness. This is abuse. Step into the twisted mind of my literature, designed to get into the depths of your mind, administer sickness around to mimic the likes of snuff cinema. What you must get into, you're nothing but pops. Remember you Homer and Happy Simpson, son. Nothing Ithaca. Talkers like the northern half of Korea's peninsula. ESP your island like the booth, something sinister. ESP your island like the booth, something sinister. ESP your island like the booth, something sinister.
Thing.
Testing 1 2 3. Okay, can I get the guys to get a check? Can I get you guys?
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, hello,
Nice.
hello.
All right. Something happened with my mic. It stopped registering my mic. I just had to put it back on. We're all set. Hey, it's your boy Sin the Swimp, broadcasting live from the City of Champions. You are watching The Booth. It is April 2nd, the day after April Fool's Day. Let me get into my sponsors. Michael Douglas Barretto, MDB Electronics. If you need your controller fixed, get it out to him. He'll have it back in 24, 48 hours. Xbox controllers, lifetime warranty is available. Also, 494,000 streams. Viana Marie's music available now. Let's push that up to 500,000. Blacklisted is the new project. Also, Tactical Target Systems. If you see those zombie targets that I got at the range, check them out. TacticalTargetSystems.com. ILoveBostonSports.com. Got a chance to win a shirt if you're in the chat. And then Kimberly Ann Empowerment Photography. Ladies, if you want to take some raw pictures, reach out to her. Take those. Viana Marie is pictured on the left-hand side. Also, Underwatch Protective Services, mobile foot patrols, and armed guards and unarmed guards, and event security and private security. Got a lot of people in the chat. What's up, Alan Bursey? Yesterday was his birthday. Happy belated birthday to you, man. Thank you for tuning into the chat, hanging out with us tonight. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. First of all, I got to thank my guests from last week, OnlyFans adult influencer Miss Marie Summers, for coming on the show, hanging out with me last week. It was a great time, good conversation with her. But tonight's First Tuesday. Oh, Alan Bursey, your birthday is today. So then, happy birthday today, Alan. Thank you for tuning in. Today is First Tuesdays. Man, the fourth First Tuesday of the year already. I got my guys, Robert Resnick, Ken Diesenhof Robert, say hello first.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be here.
Ken?
Ditto to what Rob said. Glad to be here. Let's get the show on the road. We're burning daylight.
On the road. Let's get into the news booth. In the news booth, rest in peace, Lou Conter. Lou Conter, 102 years old. He is the final USS surviving person of the Arizona in Pearl Harbor. 102 years old. I was able to go to Hawaii. My time that I went to Hawaii was actually the first time they opened up the Arizona to Japanese visitors. The year that I went, so I couldn't get down there because it was just insane because of all the Japanese people who came to Hawaii to see that. But have you guys, either of you guys were able to take that trip to the Arizona? What is it like? R squared?
Yes. It's really, it's well done. It's solemn. You go to sort of a museum, and then from the museum they take you to the Arizona site, and then you can walk around on your own there. And so you're on a platform above the sunken ship, and so you're standing over it, and you're looking down through the ground at what you can see through the water. So, it's a lot of rusted metal at this point, but it still has its shape and you can see it. And of course, you watch a movie and you can go through the museum first. So the whole history, you know what to look for. And so when you get there, it's quiet. It's a solemn memorial. So that's why you do the museum first, which is noisy and interactive and, educational. And then you do the quiet part. Very, very meaningful. Very well done.
I might have to get back out there. Ken?
Absolutely. I went there about 4 years ago with some friends of mine. It's a very moving monument, mausoleum. I'm not sure what you want to call it. People need to understand that there are over 2,000 people who are entombed in that bottom half of the ship. Their bodies are still there. It is deemed to be a memorial and a gravesite. So, as Rob said, it's very quiet, very solemn. There are interpreters who are there to help you understand certain parts of the Arizona, what's happening, how it happened. I thought it was incredible. I cannot advise people strongly enough to go. I'm a history geek, so it was double for me. There were a number of Navy veterans, not necessarily World War II veterans, but Navy veterans who were there, who, great uncle served in World War II and something like that. I did not meet anyone who had a relative on the Arizona. I'm not suggesting that. But it's just incredible that even 50 years on, people still go there to pay respects and homage.
One of the interesting things you may not know is if you served on the Arizona, you can be cremated and have your remains deposited with those sailors.
Oh,
Something I
wow.
found out I didn't know. Yeah, you can get cremated. There's a special Navy dive unit that handles that. They're special Navy divers, and they're the only ones allowed to go onto the Arizona, by the way. You cannot dive near that. It's a federal felony, by the way, if you do. As Rob said, there's a museum, and it's very important. They have a very limited number of spots to go out there. They regulate it very strictly. So only a certain amount of people are allowed to be on that bridge, I guess the best way you can describe it, at any given time. There are, of course, interpreters there that help you. Like I said before, very knowledgeable people. What is an interesting thing that I didn't realize is if you see the videos of Pearl Harbor, you can see that there's parts of Arizona that are above the waterline.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was, because it's shanking shallow water, what the Navy did was cut off that section of the Arizona and stored it on the shore. It's still there. It is not accessible to the public. You cannot go there. But actually, you can see it from where we are. It's not a lot to see now because, like I said, it's obviously rusted out. But an incredibly moving experience. I cannot recommend it enough.
Okay. Well, to be honest, while we're on the topic, and it's not really a topic in the news, but I do got to mention this because I'm actually thinking about doing every now and then. I'll do a booth field trip, and we go someplace and we do something for a field trip. And I've never done one with these guys, but I'm really hearing a lot about this this thing in Boston called Auschwitz. Not long ago, not far away. It's in Boston. It just opened up. It's about the Holocaust. It's an exhibit. I'm hearing that it's amazing. I heard them on Hot 96.9 saying that this is one you don't want to miss. So I think next month maybe we might plan something, get together, and take this trip in together, and go with these guys and get some explanation on some things and just kind of pick their brains, and we'll go about that. Also in the news booth, huge data breach at AT&T. 73 million accounts affected. Information was put out over to the dark web Wednesday. When I went to do drafting the circuits, there was a whole ton of Windows updates. My phone had a ton of updates. This is why. Everybody, if you're out there, the best thing to do, even though you may not be on an AT&T account, AT&T does business with a lot of other companies, like Xfinity and things of that sort. Update your passwords. Just be safe. Update your passwords, people. This is a big breach. This is going to be a big deal. Also, the MVP marketing deal of the year, Krispy Kreme Donuts, has linked up with McDonald's. Frank Santorowski in Kentucky said they've been testing this for a year out in Kentucky, and now it's going to go nationwide. Krispy Kreme Donuts is coming to McDonald's. That's clutch. That's MVP because Krispy Kreme opened up here in Massachusetts and got their butts kicked by Dunkin' Donuts, and they disappeared, but they'll be back. So, again, guys, first Tuesdays, I have my guys on to talk about things in the public in regards to politics, in regards to legal stuff. This is a topic that I got to talk about with my guys tonight, and it's called, we brought this up on the show before, it's called Hiding in Plain Sight, and Rob has been very vocal about militias, and some of these militias are racist groups, and these are, like Rob said, these are terrorists hiding in plain sight. Ken has had this same thing. So lately, we've got two major stories right now, and it goes into this whole thing of what I call hiding in plain sight. So ADIDAS, in this first story, ADIDAS just banned the number 44, as you can see in the pictures here, on the German jersey. The German soccer jerseys has number 44. A historian had pointed out to ADIDAS that, hey, that symbol is, even though it's digit 44, when you flip it or turn it, it represents the SS symbol for Nazis. So what ADIDAS did, and this is amazing, ADIDAS started looking at the sales of the shirts. And guess what, people? They found that the sales of the jersey is one of the highest, which lets them believe that these are going to people who are preaching or practicing hate. So what Adidas is going to do is they're stepping up and they're banning the sale of the 44 custom jersey. So you can't even order it. I've seen people on Facebook already saying, oh, Adidas is woke. I'm not buying Adidas's products anymore, blah, blah, blah. But when I get into this second story, it's going to kind of solidify this whole thing about hiding in plain sight. I'm going to let R Squared, the military guy, start off first on this hiding in plain sight thing. Your thoughts on this story?
Yeah, I mean, I saw the picture of the jersey today. I was looking at the story, and obviously it's unfortunate that it's the German national soccer team, because obviously it equates to Germany, and even though it was a long time ago, it's still part of their history, and the Germans do a very good job addressing that part of their history, to be fair to the German people. But nevertheless, because the way that the font is, the number 44, if you look at it, with your head slightly askew, it looks like it's the SS symbol instead of 44. And so Adidas rightfully realized that people who were looking for Nazi memorabilia, not soccer shirts, but Nazi memorabilia, Nazi insignia, were buying the number 44, or trying to. It's just going on sale now. And so they're not going to allow the number 44. And what they're going to do is they're just going to change the font for the number 44 so that no one on the team has that number. So they don't need to make it, but people can get any number they want to if you buy the shirt. So they're going to change the font for the number 44 so it doesn't look like that. So that's, people can make fun of Adidas or criticize them for it. It seems like a very reasonable accommodation, a very reasonable recognition of a problem to do that. And the only people who could complain were people who wanted an SS symbol. And if that's your reason, then screw you, because that tells us who you are. And you have no right to be on this planet, let alone buy a soccer jersey with the SS insignia on it. So, I'm just being blunt, because that's there's no legitimate reason to want that, right?
Ooh,
the only place that we should be seeing Nazi memorabilia is in a museum or in a Hollywood depiction of a World War II movie. There's no other legitimate place to have Nazi stuff. So
I can't wait to get into this second part of the story. Go ahead, finish up, man. I can't wait.
No, that's just it. So, if you really want a German national soccer team with an SS insignia on it, you're disgracing the German team because they don't support that. You're disgracing the German people because they reject that part of their history, and they do a very good job with that for the most part. They're obviously extremists in every country, but they're not welcome in Germany. And so, there's just no reason to want that, right? That's not a legitimate purpose to have a soccer shirt. Get a different number, get any number you want. In fact, get the number 44 with the revised font. If the number 44 resonates with you, that's fine. But if you're looking for a Nazi German soccer shirt, then you're in the wrong place. You're in the wrong planet.
Ken, your thoughts? Because when I get into this second part, oh my God, I gotta go right to Rob, because this next one is coming up. Go ahead, Ken.
Things. What Rob didn't mention, and which I'm sure knows about, you may know about this too, but it is against German law to own or possess or display, unless you're an educational or museum, Nazi paraphernalia.
I didn't know that. That's new to me.
Yes, it is
I'm today
against
years
the
old
law.
and learning that. Whoa.
It is against the law. Not only that, I'm sure you're familiar with the rock group Kiss.
Yes. They're at double S's at the end.
Now, if you look at the Kiss logo, the two S's appear to be lightning bolts, the SS lightning bolts they use, which is ironic considering Gene Simmons is not only Jewish, but his mother is a Holocaust survivor. You may not know that. When they played Germany in the 70s, they had to change their logo to SS, the regular S. Because the German authorities thought that was too close to the Nazi lightning bolts. So if you have tickets from there, and they're collector's items, they spell out KISS with the regular KISS, the normal letters. So this is nothing new with regards to the Germans, and they are anal retentive about that part of their history. In fact, they do a better job with that part of their history than Americans do some of the, shall we say,
Slavery and things of that
less,
sort.
yeah, of our history. So I am not surprised. And oh, by the way, just as a side note, and file this under irony, the brothers that founded both the companies Puma and Adidas were one of the early members of the Nazi Party, if you can believe that.
Wow. Got a lot of people in the chat. Sammy Sergio just said the school committee meeting was canceled for tonight. Okay. Thank you, everybody's Fubar Studio. Doug is in the chat. Alan, man, thank you again. Happy birthday. Sammy's in the chat. What's going on? So now, man, let's get into this second story of hiding in plain sight. So on top of this SS symbol on just an Adidas jersey, we now have another instance of an SS symbol patch. This isn't, does it look like it? Oh, it's no, this is an actual SS patch used and worn by those who represent that Nazi order. This past weekend, I say hiding in plain sight, the military had been strict over the years. Years ago, social media, you would never see pictures from guys who were enlisted in the service, but for some reason, and maybe R-Squared can answer this, but for some reason now, we see all these TikTok videos and things of that sort of people who are active duty members in the service, and we see their videos daily. Well, a Special Forces National Guard unit posted on Instagram this weekend, and in their post, I forget exactly what words they use, but one or two of the members had unauthorized SS patches on their National Guard uniforms. Now, these guys are Special Forces. The military has opened up a full investigation. These guys are going to be questioned. This is an issue. I feel like I think maybe you could get away with this on the National Guard level. I don't think that you would be able to get away with that at that military level of Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. I'm going to let R-Squared get right into this because you were very passionate about just the jersey. Now we're talking about a National Guard Special Forces member with an SS patch on his uniform on Instagram, and he's caught. He's caught. There's no ifs, there's no ands or buts. These two gentlemen, first of all, what is the punishment for that? R-Squared.
Oh, that we're not even close to that yet because we have to figure out what was done first. I'll get into that in a moment. But
Okay,
first, let me
let's
answer
go.
the question that you raised. There's one standard for everybody in uniform. Doesn't matter if you're Guard, Reserve, or active. There's one standard. And so, the differences that exist are because some people are full-time versus part-time. So, from employment and benefits or whatever, but there's nothing about standards that's different. So, generally speaking, we don't have to worry about the nuances because they don't apply in this situation.
Gotcha.
So it doesn't matter if they were National Guard or what component they were. The other thing is, one of the challenges, it's either a challenge or a benefit, right? Depending on your perspective, is social media. Because with everybody in the last 20 years, getting on various social media platforms and posting everything, pictures and statements and what have you, there's no private life anymore because you choose to put your private life out there for everybody to see, which means it isn't private anymore. And so people who may have certain viewpoints, have certain, objects, clothing, symbols, posters, whatever it is, they're making it public. And so I'm not suggesting that it's okay in private, but what I'm saying is that people are putting everything on social media, which means you're putting the evidence out there for everybody to see. And so it's easier to trace this. In the 1970s, I'm sure there were some extremists. We had a lot of discipline problems in the Vietnam era, and I'm not criticizing those who served. I'm just saying there were discipline problems, with drug use and what have you. But you didn't have social media. And so, unless people watched it on the nightly news, there wasn't anything to see or to learn. Now, everybody who deploys is taking videos and taking pictures and posting everything. And so, there's some goodness. Transparency is an antiseptic for corruption, an antiseptic for impropriety. So to some extent, you want to see these things because it's keeping everybody honest, making a record of things. On the other hand, it creates, some other issues. Now, going to this specific thing, what we've had in the military is the presence of extremists for decades. This is not a new thing. It's just something that's been problematic. And so extremism is not allowed, right? You can't be a member of an extremist group or promote extremist ideology if you're a member of the military. You're allowed to your personal opinions, but you can't promote them, right? You can't have symbology, you can't have insignia, you can't have posters. You can't do that because in the military, you have a little bit less of your right to privacy. You still have your Bill of Rights, your constitutional rights, but not to the fullest extent that maybe somebody outside of the military has. And so it's not like you could go back to your barracks room or your quarters and have inappropriate stuff in there. That's still not okay. And so in this particular issue, if you have a unit that is displaying an extremist symbol, regardless of what it is, whether it's a Nazi symbol from, the World War II era or the modern day Nazi symbol or another extremist group, it could be the Proud Boys, it could be the Ku Klux Klan, it could be anything that's been labeled as an extremist group. And it's a pretty consistent and broad definition. And, just to be fair, the military puts that out. People know that. If people are going to say, well, how do people know? It's not always obvious. Well, they know because the military does a good job of educating incoming people, and you get classes in this stuff as part of your training, your ongoing training, like you do military justice and war crimes and everything else that we train. And so there is education on that. And so people do understand what the rules are and where the lines are drawn. And so if you are involved in extremism, then technically the immediate remedy would be obviously to do an investigation to determine, whether it was intentional, whether it was knowing, because there's a right to collect the information and, look to what we can demonstrate with what somebody knew and what they intended or whatever. I mean, there could be something that's done by accident, and you might handle that differently from somebody who's an active member of a group that's out actively recruiting, right? It's two different things. So the punishment would be what is appropriate. If you are simply a member of an extremist group and you have extremist paraphernalia or whatever, then you can renounce it, and you might survive, but normally you would be separated. It's administrative separation. It's not disciplinary. It might feel it, but it's not disciplinary. It's not criminal in nature. You would simply be separated from the service because being a member of an extremist group is not compatible with military service. Under the law, under the regulations, doesn't matter what branch or what you do in the military, it's not allowed. Now, if you're doing more than that, if you are actively recruiting, if you're actively promoting, then you might find yourself in some more, higher level disciplinary action at that point. And that's why it's important to collect the facts and determine, where on the spectrum of intentions, just like we do with anybody who commits wrongdoing in the civilian community. You do an investigation, you collect the facts. What can you prove? What can you conclude about somebody's activities and their intentions? And we handle it appropriately. The issue is that for decades, this is not new, folks, but for decades, you have had members of extremist groups, and this includes things from your street gangs who are just involved in crime, not necessarily ideological issues, just street gangs, all the way up through extremist groups like the organized hate groups that you might be thinking of when somebody talks about extremist groups and terrorist groups. They are actively looking to send some of their younger members into military service to get access to weapons and weapons training, because they can find that very helpful, as you can imagine, right? Somebody with access to weapons and weapons training and tactics might be very valuable to these groups, whether they're criminal in nature or ideological in nature. It's you can see the benefit of that military experience. In addition to that, they're looking for vulnerable people. This is cult-like behavior. They're looking for vulnerable people, lonely people, confused people, scared people, isolated people to recruit them. And so they are knowingly sending their members to join the military. They'll do 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, maybe even 10 years, right? As long as they can get away with it, working at the behest of their extremist group, more so than they are, our nation or the military. And so those are the folks that we have to look for. Those are the folks we're trying to identify and, administratively separate, if not do something else, because that is 100% incompatible with military service. You have to be 100% loyal to the people you're serving with, whatever their race, religion, ethnicity, whatever they happen to be. They are your brothers and sisters in arms. And, if we're in combat, you have to be able to trust the people next to you on your left, your right, your front, your back, without question. And if there are people with split loyalties because they're actually doing the bidding of an extremist group that may be in conflict with the people they are serving with, you can see why that's not compatible, why there isn't trust, why there isn't the ability to rely on somebody like that, because they might allow you to be killed or injured, right? Because of who you are and what you represent. That's why it's not compatible. See, this is serious business, right? Because if we're fighting an enemy, then we have to be 100% focused on that enemy and protecting our nation. And our nation consists of all kinds of people, some of whom we like, some of whom we may not like. But that doesn't matter. When we're at war, the only enemy is the enemy, not ourselves. And so there cannot be split loyalties like that. That's why this is serious business. That's why the military, you hear it periodically where the Pentagon will do some kind of a study where there'll be an investigation of a particular incident so that we can try to root this stuff out, so we can learn about it. But I saw it plenty in my 25 years. I saw evidence of it. I was involved in a program that I invented. I won't say where, but where I was getting rid of people who had extremist tendencies. I was administratively separating them with minimal due process. I'll leave it at that, because it was the right thing to do for the unit, and it was the right thing to do for the military, and other people started doing it. So it's serious business. We can talk about these groups. We've talked about them on the show. That's a whole different issue about who these groups are, and whether they're a threat to the nation and all that. But from the military context, that's what I've just laid out for you.
That's scary. Andrea Fernandez, Debbie, I'm just blown away right now. For those who are out here listening, like I said, these guys who come on the show, they're both legal guys. Rob is a JAG officer. He's a retired U.S. colonel. Ken, you want anything to add to that?
No,
defense attorney.
I think I'm a defense attorney, but let me just say this isn't my bailiwick. This is Rob's, and I could talk about it. Rob lived it, and he lived it for over 20 years. And this is the man who actually not only was on the front lines, literally, both in certain sandy parts of the world, but actually had to deal with this issue. Because one of the interesting things about say what about the U.S. military, they take in everybody from all four corners of our country, from every socioeconomic background, from every geographic background, rural, suburban, urban, and that they've got to function as a unit. And if you don't think that's difficult, try functioning in Brockton or Boston. And those people are very similar. Now imagine taking people from all over the country, some who basically don't even speak the same dialect, and making them function in a high-stress environment. There is absolutely no room for that kind of nonsense. And
it's scary to hear. It's scary to hear Rob say that, and he said this on the show before. He had said that these groups have been in the military for many years. It's just that I find it ballsy to go to that extreme, to where you're going to put that patch on your uniform and to think nobody was going to notice and out you. That's what scares me and makes me say.
Can I just talk about that?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
One thing. I think this is more generational than anything else. And I deal with it with a number of my clients who are under the age of 30. They have grown up with social media in a way that you, I, and the Colonel did not. And it's so ingrained to them, they don't think about it. They don't think about the repercussions. They think they're going to put something out there, and the only people who see it are their friends and companions. They have no idea about how easily information is shared in the digital era. I'll give you a prime example. There's an interesting video that is making its way around. It's about 3 or 4 weeks old. I'm sure of it. I'm sure some of you have seen it, from Gaza. And it purports to show an Israeli war crime. The problem is when when it left the area, people were picking, people. It was put out by a quote unquote pro-Palestinian peace group, and it purported to show the Israelis massacring people who were trying to pick up food. The problem is this video was only supposed to be sent to Al Jazeera and their compatriots. The problem is, once it got out there, it got seen by everybody, and a number of people who know much more about this than I will ever know were going, hey, by the way, that's wrong, and these are the reasons why it's wrong. They pointed out that no, first of all, the ammunition they claim the Israelis are using, the Israelis don't have in their arsenal. It's like, no, this is not a round the Israelis use. They use this round. First of all, you wouldn't use that for anti-personnel. That's anti-vehicle. And if you got hit by that, you wouldn't have a body left. You'd be basically a mist. So they were going through all this information saying how this was wrong. And now this is like all over the place. So my point is, people, in answer to your question, long road, small farm, when they put the patch on the uniform and they post it, they don't expect anyone to see it but their friends who are like-minded individuals. They are shocked to find out that other people see this. I cannot tell you, Sinister One, how many cases I've had as a criminal defense attorney where my clients have put the dumbest things on, not only, text other people, but on social media account and Instagram. For example, I'll give you an example. I had one guy who posted himself holding up a bunch of large caliber weapons. I loathe use the term machine gun because they weren't machine guns. They were automatic rifles, large capacity handguns, and grenades on Instagram. And when we had the detention hearing, the Commonwealth was bringing them in and just is showing them to the judge saying, look, this is how dangerous this guy, he's showing off all these weapons. Okay? And I said, and my guys said, well, no, that was just props. I was just doing it to hype my cred for my rap career. Didn't go over well with the judge. So I'm not surprised they did.
It's funny you mention that because I know I can't, let me see how I can word this without outing somebody. I have somebody very close to me in my family. They're actually doing a bid right now because they were in that life and, they've been wanting to catch this person for a long time. This person and several others posted on social media pictures of them outside of Franklin Park Zoo with high-capacity weapons and firearms. Guess what happened? They got picked up. They got arrested. Now he's doing a bid. Why? Because Franklin Park is a federal zoo. Correct me if I'm wrong. They used the photos that these nitwits posted on their social media to charge them and get them with the crime. And he was charged with, they were all charged with having those firearms at a federal spot.
Well, the technical term I'm looking for is federal reservation. That's the technical term.
Yeah. And I want to say,
yes, I'll give you a prime example.
8 years. 8 years. 8 years.
There is a number of parks around D.C. that are federal reservations, and Dave Humphreys, who's a colleague of mine, was a special U.S. attorney down there prosecuting crimes there for various things, and they were shocked to find out when they got pulled in to federal court. I was like, it's a federal reservation, so yeah. I'll give you one example. The VA campus in Brockton, you know it well.
Yeah. Oh, yes, yeah.
If you commit a crime on that campus,
that's federal.
You don't go to Brockton District or Plymouth Superior.
Mm-mm.
You go to district court in Boston.
Mm-hmm. Everybody in the chat, what's going on? Andrea Fernandez, Debbie Ian, Billy Atwood, what's going on? Billy Joe Allen. So, hey, good conversation. Let's continue on. I believe this is going to bring us into the legal booth. In the legal booth here in Brockton, we've got a Easter Day shooting. Horrible. Sedric Abreau, 27 years old, was murdered on Easter Sunday. 2 men are being held right now. One of those is his brother. The third suspect is also a brother. He's the main suspect. People, I don't know. It's sad, where, you have a family issue to the point where you take the life of another family member. crazy and sad to see these issues on an Easter morning. I'm hearing this kid, Sedric, 27 years old, was kind of a good kid, I'm hearing. I don't know what happened. There's nothing has been said as to what happened, but he did end up shot, and he died from his wounds. As I said, 2 men have been held. One of those is his brother, the third suspect, who is the shooter. He is on the loose, but it is also the brother, so it's going to be interesting. Also in the legal booth, look, I had to table this. I'm confused. There's a ton of stuff going on. President Trump, legal booth. The last time we talked, he didn't have enough money to get the bond. They dropped it down, so he was able to get the bond. In order to get the money up to front for the bond, they put Truth Social as a public entity and sold off all this stock and made all this money in a short little bit of time. But if you go and look at the stocks right now, it's tanking right now. And these guys are saying, because it possibly could be a pump and dump. Let's get right into this. Let's start off. I'm going to start off with Ken Diesel this time on this whole pump and dump and stock and the gag orders and all this stuff going on with President Trump.
Okay, let's start one thing at a time. Let's talk about Truth Social. Okay, couple of things you need to understand about when you take a company, quote unquote, public. What does that mean? It means you're going to sell a security, which means an ownership interest in the company on the public market. There are numerous public markets that you can do this on. The most famous in the world, of course, is the New York Stock Exchange, or NYSE. But that's not by no means, that's not the only one. There is the NASDAQ. There is the American Stock Exchange. There's the Boston Stock Exchange. There's the one in Chicago. There's one in LA. There's one in London. And all these different exchanges have different rules. Now, he did not go to the New York Stock Exchange. Why? Because the New York Stock Exchange has some very interesting rules, and they're very strict. And they're designed to combat what we call pump and dump. What is pump and dump? Very simple. What pump and dump people do is, before a stock is released, they hype it up. To use a hip-hop term, they're hype men. They go out there to pump up the value of the stock, okay? Then they sell it, and then or dump it, and then the stock price goes back down. Now, on the New York Stock Exchange, when you do an initial public offering, you sell the stock, but the NYSE holds the proceeds for 90 days. Meaning the people, let's say Sinister One, you decide to take Sinister One public productions public, okay? And you get registered in the New York Stock Exchange, and you're going to go out there and say, I got 1 million shares, I'm going to sell 500,000. And let's say we believe that the opening price is going to be $10 per share, okay? And you sell all your shares. You can call fully subscribed, and it goes out, and they're really excited about this entity, and the stock goes from $10 to $30 a share. Okay, so the 500,000 shares that you held in reserve are now worth $30. If you choose then to sell those shares, or some of them, you can get $30 a share. Except on the NYSE says the moment you issue the first share, any shares that you sell, okay, the proceeds are held for 90 days. So you don't see the proceeds from that sale for 90 days. Because if it all of a sudden goes down, the NYSE can go, aha, you did not properly list this share for its true market value. Therefore, we're going to claw back and give the money back either to the investors or fines or whatever. That's called a collar, by the way, used in actual terms. Now, the NYSE is a private organization. They have no legal authority. They can't force other exchanges to do that. So what Trump did is he went to a bunch of other minor exchanges, some of which I have never heard of, didn't know they existed, and he puts Truth Social out there through these exchanges. That's number one, who don't have the 90-day rule. Number two, Trump did not have a major underwriter. What is an underwriter? Glad you asked. A major underwriter is usually a group of stock companies that buy the shares from the company at a set price and then resell them on the market. They basically front the money for this thing, and they issue the shares. And the difference between the share they bought at, the share they sell it at, that's their profit. It's called the float. Trump did not have any major underwriters coming in. In fact, we have no idea who the underwriter was or how he offered those shares. This whole True Social stinks of high heaven of a pump and dump. And God knows where the money is really going, who really bought the shares. I'm giving you fair warning. I'm breaking out my tinfoil hat. Okay. I'm giving you fair warning. Okay. I think the same people who've been financing him, mainly a collection of Saudi princes. There are literally hundreds of them, maybe even thousands.
Russian oligarchs.
Right, Russian oligarchs and a certain Chinese interests did that to fund True Social. Because if you look at the value of the stock now, it's gone down by almost 90% in less than 10 days. Enron didn't collapse that fast.
and he was selling Bibles.
Right, we'll get to that in a second. Now, it's interesting. I called my cousin Eric Snow. Eric Snow is the husband of my first cousin, Nicole Stevens. And he's an economist who works for Bear Stearns. And his job, one of the jobs he has, is to help value stocks for Bear Stearns. And I called him up and I emailed him and I asked him when this first came out, I said, do you know anything about True Social, about how they're coming up with the evaluation? And he said, no. I said, oh, so Bear Stearns isn't involved. He said, no, Ken, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. Nobody's involved. Usually what happens when a company goes public, the company underwriting it explains, they give evaluations, and they explain how they came about it. They publish it. They didn't do that for True Social, which means there's no SEC filing, which means it was never offered on an American exchange. So I don't know what exchanges they're using. If anybody could tell me, I'd appreciate that. But according to my cousin, this was not offered on any American exchanges.
You're in the chat.
Really?
Think you know in the chat? Drop it there. Squared, you want to add to this?
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, Ken did a good, discussion of the stock exchange. Probably much more information than anybody thought they would learn about stocks tonight.
Good stuff.
So I'm certainly not going to try to expand on that. That was pretty thorough. I just wanted to add one other thing about Trump's funding, because the money from selling Truth Social is money for his pockets, his coffers. It's to, for his personal uses. The bond that he had to file with New York because of his criminal cases, it was reported today that almost all of the $175 million that he had to post, and he did post it, came through basically one source, but two sources. One of his billionaire cronies by the last name of Hackey. And remember these names because these are the crooks. These are the American oligarchs that are playing the same games that everybody else is playing, right? Because, if you think Trump is a good return on your investment, you're obviously buying something. And what people like Hackey are buying is the idea that Trump could win in November and then they own him, right? For policy and more corporate tax cuts and whatever else they want. So, most of that money came from Hackey, who also is involved with the Axos financial company, which basically has replaced Deutsche Bank because they don't do business with Trump anymore since he got them in such trouble. You now have the company called Axos. And so that's where he got the money from. So, everybody says when it comes to politics and corruption and all that, follow the money. Well, they're following the money. And this is how Trump paid that $175 million bond to be able to do the appeal in New York. That's where the money's coming from.
This is some crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
And if I can add just
check. Go ahead, Ken.
One other thing, because you mentioned the gag order, which is a separate issue.
Yes.
So I think, first of all, we need to explain before anything else. When you're in court, there are certain rules of court that attorneys must follow. And there are certain rules of decorum that parties must follow, witnesses and observers. One of the basic ones, and this comes not a shock to anyone, is you may not disrupt the court proceedings. If you do, you can be asked to leave. And that includes parties. There's been numerous cases where defendants or plaintiffs in a civil case have been so disrupted, they've been ordered to leave the courtroom. And what they do is they go into a room and they're connected to the courtroom with audiovisual, and they put on a headset and they can actually communicate with their lawyers. It actually happened to me one time. I had a client who was borderline incompetent. He was mentally ill. We had restored him to competence, but he was easily agitated. So what happened was he got pissed off with one of the police officers testifying. So the judge said, took a short recess, put him in a room, and I had wear a headset so I could hear what my client said. I could talk to my client all through the trial, which was quite annoying because my client kept screaming in my earphone the entire trial. I don't know if you ever see, to give an example, you always see the coaches on the sidelines with the headphones talking to the coaches upstairs.
Yeah.
That's basically what I had to wear for an entire trial. And imagine, my client was screaming at me to object and do this, whatever. So what happened in the Trump trial was the judge ordered Trump to keep his mouth shut. He couldn't make any comments, both in or out of court, about the judge, about the witnesses, about the prosecutors, about anybody else. That's what's known as a gag order, and that's permissible during a trial. What happened at the trial, and Rob, I think, will back me up, was apparently he was making comments that were so loud both the judge and the jury could hear him about numerous witnesses and everything else. So the judge told him to keep his mouth shut, and he kept on doing it, and then he went on and blasted on social media when he got out. So he violated the gag order.
And he thinks
2 gag orders.
He thinks that going on True Social, he's like these other nitwits. He thinks because he owns True Social, he has freedom of speech there and he doesn't. I don't know why he thinks that he can go on True Social just because he owns it and can say whatever he wants. He's crazy. R-squared?
Well, I mean, he does have a point there. Not because he owns it, but because when you take Truth Social as a public forum like that, as people engaging in political speech has historically had the greatest protection in this country because that's what the First Amendment was founded upon, the ability to criticize the government and express your viewpoints and everything else. The problem that we have is this is sort of a unique departure from normal discourse in this regard. And we've never, despite challenges and candidates and all kinds of issues in our history, we've never had someone trying to lead us into authoritarianism or tyranny or anything like that. And I don't use those words lightly because I rejected those comparisons until very recently. but this is tyranny, right? And this is what he's doing, and it's never been in our history before. So the courts have not weighed in on this aspect that might support limitations on political speech, because Trump is saying that his speech is not just public criticism of the judge, which he's allowed to do. He's allowed to criticize the judge and the prosecutor. He is not allowed to talk about witnesses, jurors, staff, and others. But the fact of the matter is 2 things. Number one, what about when he spews absolute falsehoods that he knows to be false or is recklessly disregarding truth, right? What does that have to do with political speech? And then second, his whole idea is that his campaign is founded upon his, grievances, right? That he doesn't have an ideology. He doesn't have an agenda. It's all about grievances. So he's engaging in political speech. And so the courts are going to have to quickly weigh in on, an unprecedented limitation. And the issue with that is important because in this particular context of the gag order, what his entire strategy is to intimidate the potential jurors who would serve in his cases. Remember, he has multiple cases, right? Cases all over the country, multiple in New York, multiple with the U.S. attorney's offices, Georgia, everywhere. His whole idea, in addition to the delay tactics to make sure that these cases never go to trial, is to intimidate jurors so that people would be hesitant if they're called to be a juror on any of his cases to vote against him in deliberations. That this is what he's doing. And he's doing this to intimidate judges with the threats against the judges and their families and just the negative attacks on them, the incessant attacks on them, because he wants them to be hesitant to rule against him, to make rulings against him. And the same thing with witnesses. He wants the witnesses to refuse to testify against him, even though that would be the truthful testimony that they have to offer, or at least to dial back their testimony because they're afraid of the repercussions by Trump and his minions. And so this is sort of an unprecedented thing. Yes, we've had organized crime that, the famous, police shows that you watch where they have to put a witness in protection and they're trying to kill the witness before trial. We've all seen those plot lines on Law and Order and Blue Bloods and all those shows because that was the old-fashioned way of doing it. Well, Trump is doing the same thing, but without the firearm, without actually killing the witness. He is trying to prevent them from testifying against him, just not by killing them, by intimidation. But it's almost as bad because he knows what he can say, but he also knows by the comments he's making, he is whipping up the MAGA minions to take it a step further. He knows, and he certainly should know, and it certainly is reasonable to know, and certainly his lawyers know and should be advising him on this, that the rhetoric he's using is so extreme, is so dangerous that all of these judges and witnesses and civil servants who are just showing up for their 9 to 5s are getting death threats. They've been getting death threats daily for months and months and months. They've had to go into hiding. They've had to cut off their contact with their friends and family. They've had to, change, it's extensive. We can spend a whole show talking about this.
Yeah,
this is
there have
Trump
been
strategy. This is his strategy to prevent his trials. And that's why there are gag orders. And by the way, these are crimes, and he should be prosecuted for these things as well.
Alan Bursey in the chat, he says, R squared is on fire tonight. Fire. Look,
I'll take it as a compliment, but these are just the facts, and you can get them from multiple sources. I don't even have to make this stuff up, and I don't even have to engage in hyperbole, which I do try to avoid, quite frankly. I do get fired up sometimes because I believe in the rule of law. And I don't like somebody abusing the system because you have money to hire legal teams and just play these games. I don't like it. The average citizen could never do any of this. Ken's clients could never do any of this. They'd be in jail in a heartbeat. And the people, that I dealt with in the system don't deserve to deal with, threats like this. So, but the fact of the matter is this is unprecedented territory, really, right? Other than the old, crime figures that were, murdering witnesses. This is something different, and the court system is leery because I know Ken wants to jump in. Let me just finish my point here. It's not unprecedented in that it hasn't happened. It's unprecedented in the political aspect of it, that we haven't had somebody running for president doing this. Even Richard Nixon never came close to doing this, and he had his moments with his conspiracy theories and what have you. And so the problem is that we have to draw a distinction, a very clear distinction. In my mind, it's crystal clear between your bona fide campaign free speech versus your commission of a crime, which is the intimidation of members of the jury, the witnesses, the court staff, election workers, all of these people. And even if it wasn't intentional at the beginning, which we know is crap, there's so much evidence of what his minions have been doing at his behest that it should be stopped, and he needs to be held accountable for this. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Hey, Mike Vladimirian, what's going on? Andre Fernandez said, could this Truth Social stock be a clever way to skirt political campaign? Yes, that's what these guys have broke down.
Yes, that's what we've been saying.
Ken, she just jumped in late. Ken, I know you're a defense attorney, and you have said this on the show. You've actually gone full diesel on the fact that you have sat here and said, you can't believe some of the stuff that Trump has been allowed to get away with because you said some of your guys that you've represented as a defense attorney would be hung out to dry. So you've made it very clear in this show that this is insane.
If any of my clients did 1/10 of the things, not only were they hung out to dry, I'd be hung out to dry next to them because I would be told by the judge, Mr. Diesenhof, get a hold of your client and do your job and get him to shut up. Don't do that. As a matter of fact, what you may not realize is a number of his attorneys have already been warned by the judge that the judge will hold them in contempt for failing to control your client. Because what's not known is, as an attorney, you have a responsibility to control your client. And I can tell you from experience, that's not very easy sometimes.
Well, I think
And
I think he's on his fifth. Isn't he on like his fifth set of attorneys right now?
I think it's more like 25th. But that being said, I think this is worse than Nixon, worse than the mob, because the mob would get a small group of people to intimidate witnesses, but everybody knew they were outside the law. With Trump, it's an entire organization of quote unquote law-abiding citizens who are doing this. And let me tell you, I am sorry. I understand the judge's point that he wants to appeal-proof his case. He doesn't want to give Trump any room for an appeal. But I'm sorry. You start making comments about that, about judges and prosecutors, revoke your bail. That's it. Revoke your bail, go to jail till the end of the trial. Okay? Anybody else who makes those death threats, you charge Trump with conspiracy. None of this, I didn't tell him to do it. Bull crap. To incite someone to commit a crime is a crime. If I incite you and Rob to go out and rob a 7-Eleven, I am as guilty as you and Rob. Because I'm accessory before the fact, conspiracy, joint venture. Now, unfortunately, we don't have the time, and I don't have the patience right now to explain the whole theory of joint venture. We could spend an entire semester on it.
Yeah, I know. That's why I touched base on this topic with you guys. Like I said, these guys are
Let
here.
me say, Trump is getting away with literally murder. Now, I'm going to dial it back down because I had a very long conversation with another colleague of mine who said that all the judge is doing is allowing Trump to bring the rope, craft the gallows, and then walk him, let him hang himself on it, which maybe that is true. So I will.
But we'll see. As we all know, Nikki Haley did not drop out. Nikki Haley actually, as I mentioned before in the show, she actually suspended her campaign. Suspended. There's a big difference from ending and suspending. And the rumor is the reason why she suspended it is because if he does end up in jail, if he does end up going south and can't run for president, she can become that front runner for the Republican Party, which is why she suspended her campaign. She has not officially stepped out. So pay attention, people, to what's going on here. Let's get into the entertainment booth. Rest in peace, Louis Gossett Jr., 87 years old, as you guys saw at the intro of the show. Officer and the Gentleman, Chappie from Iron Eagle. He was also the alien in the film. I forget the name of the friggin' film.
Enemy Mine.
Enemy Mine. He was the alien in that film with one of the Quaid brothers, which was another big
Dennis
movie.
Quaid.
Louis Gossett was one of the greatest black actors out there. He took home that first Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. When you look at that film,
one of the greatest actors. Don't qualify it.
There you go. Thank you for correcting the black guy. There you go. Love it. That's why I love these guys. But again, if you guys saw that movie,
he was also a fiddler in Roots with LeVar Burton. He also was Chaffee in Iron Eagle. He had so many good roles. He will be sorely missed.
Him and Eddie Murphy did a great skit on SNL where they called the writers to task for putting the skit together, which is, if you ever want to look that up, that's great stuff. Also, let's talk about this clickbait real quick that pisses me off. Today, Cleveland.com puts out a story and says Howard Stern, radio regular, passes 55 years old. Now, most of us know that Howard Stern is older than 55, but it's just a straight clickbait story. They have a picture of Howard Stern and all this stuff so everybody can clickbait it. But when you read the story, it actually tells you what it is. But I don't like this. This is the person who passed away. Crazy Cabbie passed away. Lee Siegfried, 55 years old. He was a regular on the Howard Stern show. But to create clickbait and clicks and get people to come and get traffic to their website, they strategically word it in a way so people think that Howard Stern is passed, and they go and they look, and I hate this. This is the new strategy for social media. It drives me up a wall, and it pisses me off. People, let's do a better job out there with the way we do things. Also, Godzilla Kong, the new Empire, #1 movie in the world, $194 million. Still got to get together as a group and go see the film. Look, it's a popcorn movie, #1. I'm just going to tell you, it's a popcorn movie. It's not going to be an Academy Award-winning movie like Godzilla -1. It's strictly popcorn movie. Also, if you haven't seen Monarch, Legacy of Monsters on Apple TV, you have to kind of see it because there's a lot in this film that has to do with Middle-earth that you're kind of confused and lost if you didn't watch Monarch, which really touches base on that. Also, Netflix, Gundam, Requirement for Vengeance. I'm just going to get into this trailer for you guys right here, and then I got another quick trailer. Here's the trailer for Gundam, Requirement of Vengeance on Netflix. Here we go.
Remind me again. Why are we fighting over this rock?
We fight because those are our orders.
Need those mobile suits on the ground now! Deploy to 42 Delta 9!
Red Wolves are on the ground.
It's the Red Wolves! They took out 3 fleets and moved! Captain Iria Solari?
Sir.
You ever see a Zaku up close? Not like this. But the Principality of Zeon will spread across the Earth! Something bothering you, Cap?
I don't know. I've just got a bad feeling about all of this. What the hell is that? We need to give our allies some cover.
You didn't have to kill them.
This is war, Doc. Sus or them.
What's your name?
Commander Heaton, ma'am. 2nd Lieutenant Heaton.
I'm 2nd Lieutenant Haley Arhan, 1st Armored Infantry.
Wait! I'm a UMRC, a doctor!
Is Red Wolf Squadron doing?
Captain Zydos? Zaku 2, we're moving!
Remind me again. Why are we fighting over this rock?
We fight.
First time you take off, you gotta push the I believe button.
I fell in love with aviation at 4 years old. My dad took me to an air show, and I got to watch the Blue Angels fly for the very first time.
This year, we're bringing 5 new people into this team. Something I never thought was actually gonna happen.
It's 1 in a million.
We only have 3 months to get to a point where we can take it on the road.
It can be frustrating at times. The challenge is to get the newbies up to speed, and that can be scary. When you're flying 12 inches apart, everybody's lives are in each other's hands.
It's an eye-opener for how inherently dangerous this job is.
Ready, roll, hat.
Every once in a while, the jets just kind of freeze, and the world around you seems to spin.
To make 6 jets fly as one, that's the Blue Angel magic. I just pinch myself, we get a chance to be part of it.
With all these things that I've done.
All right, back here in the booth, those trailers for you guys. Man, oh man, Gundam, Requirement for Vengeance on Netflix, and I just dropped the trailer on Prime Video, but it's coming out in the theaters, IMAX, The Blue Angels, and it's funny because I said to Rob, the military guy, I said, for me, I feel like when you see these movies like this, recruitment numbers are low. I'm going to let you talk about it real quick, R-squared on this Blue Angels film.
No, but that's exactly what it is. They're not trying to hide it. It's absolute 100% recruitment, right? When the Navy Blue Angels go and put on their shows, when the Air Force Thunderbirds go and put on their shows, when the elite units of the Army and the Marines go and put on their shows, they all have these units that put on shows, right? And so, on the one hand, yes, it is an amazing, legitimate testament to the talent that we have in all of our services, right? Those are some of the best damn pilots in the world, that they could fly with such precision. Imagine what they could do in combat, right? That's the whole idea. That, and so that's the point. But but when these units are going around performing, obviously they're not really doing combat maneuvers for the most part. They're doing precision formations, which are really cool looking, and it's all about recruiting people. I mean, there's no veil on that. That's exactly what it's for. Now, what people don't realize, some people say, why does the military sponsor, race cars? Why is the military sponsoring or doing commercials during football games and sporting events and, what have you? Well, okay, that's a debate. I mean, how does anybody advertise? I mean, we obviously need to recruit the best and brightest from the United States. And so, that requires some commercials. You can't just have recruiters going to high schools and doing that. At the same time, when you do just a single flyover for a sporting event, let alone a complete performance by the Thunderbirds or the Blue Angels, you're talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars. And so, I'm not trying to inject controversy to this. They're amazing pilots. It's fun to watch. But the cost of these units when they do the shows is astronomical. And so there is some debate, about whether that's money properly spent. So, just to put two sides to it. But these are the best pilots in the world by far.
Ken?
Oh, absolutely. And there's another unit which Rob left out. And being an Army guy, he probably didn't want to be a little modest. The Army parachute team, the Golden Knights, who, if you've never seen, are incredible.
Yeah, no, I said the Army. Yeah.
You did? I apologize. No, but this is clearly, it's clearly propaganda. It's clearly advertising. But I think it's also a way of making people aware of what you're spending millions and millions of dollars in the defense budget to do. Okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Look, we went to an all-volunteer Army in the early 70s. The Army's, all of our armed forces, don't want to leave anybody out, needs people, and they need people every year. And unfortunately, unless you want to go back to a draft, that's the price you pay to have a very highly regarded, highly trained, highly effective, and highly competent military. Is this? I'd like to bring a comparison to another quote-unquote all-volunteer force. I'm putting that in quotes because they're not particularly, they're voluntold, I think is the best way, is the Russian army. Mm-hmm. They are utterly and completely incompetent. But, they grab as many people as they can. And you can see the difference. Our military is a highly efficient, highly trained organization with a lot of discipline. It's not perfect. Like any organization is going to have problems. But the reason we're able to do this is because we attract the best and the brightest at all levels, both enlisted, non-commissioned, and commissioned officers.
Good topics tonight. Let's get into the sports booth. Rest in peace, Vontae Davis, 35 years old, found dead in his mother's home. As you guys know, Vontae Davis is the cornerback who about 2 years ago, actually during halftime, he quit NFL. I don't know if you guys all remember that. Mental health issues abound. I'm curious to see what's going to come back with his CTE testing. Number one, let's see what's going to happen there. Number two, this guy had been going through a ton of problems, so I pray that this isn't CTE related. And my prayers go out to him and his family. Also in the sports booth, rest in peace, Larry Lucchino, 78 years old. He was the CEO of the Red Sox for 3 World Championships. He passed away, so rest in peace to him. The Miz of the WWE, we are heading into WrestleMania this weekend. The Miz put out a request to meet with Jason Kelce, who has retired from the Philadelphia Eagles, One of the most athletic offensive linemen out there. The Miz thinks that with the proper training, Jason Kelce could become the next big WWE superstar. It could happen. We've had a lot of wrestlers become big household names and made that transition from the NFL. So I'm curious to see if Jason Kelce shows up at WrestleMania in Philadelphia this weekend during the Miz's match. Let's see what happens here. Also in the sports booth, Iowa got their revenge last night. 94-87, knocking off LSU. When people ask me, I didn't think LSU had a chance to beat them a second. It's hard. It's hard to advance from that Final Four every year. And I didn't think LSU had it. Angel Reese got injured. They had the lead. Angel Reese got injured, and she wasn't right after being injured. Caitlin Clark poured it on. Congrats to Iowa. Good stuff for them. Let's get into Biden bombshells. We're a little bit over, but we had some great topics tonight. Misinformation and ignorance abound. Easter Sunday hits. President Biden says that even though it is Easter, he wants to recognize again that March 31st is the Transgender Day of Recognition, or Day of Visibility, day that we acknowledge transgender. First and foremost, this has been in place since 2009. But because a lot of people don't know about it, a lot of people didn't really have social media back then in 2009, guess what happens, people? Trump and the MAGA nitwits turn this into a narrative. Turn around and say that Christianity is at threat, blah, blah, blah. Biden's coming for your holiday, blah, blah, blah. And I'm seeing all of these nitwits and idiots on social media. And like I said, this has been in place since March 31st of 2009. Now, first and foremost, most of these MAGA nitwits the day before were complaining that Easter Sunday is early because it's usually in April. Why are we celebrating it in March? It's early. These are the same people who are talking about their... So here's the hypocrisy and the craziness of it. And I applaud the White House. The crap hit the fan. Trump goes on Truth Social. He says Biden is trying to take away your holiday to acknowledge transgender, blah, blah, blah. You would think in this day and age, maybe the White House would step back and nope. The White House did exactly different, people. On Sunday and Monday, the White House doubled down and said, no, we're acknowledging the transgenders on their day because March 31st is that day. In real talk, Easter is on this day because of the day. That's how it fell. So the day is really strictly for that transgender day of recognition, visibility. The issue here is look, right here. Congressman Stephen Lynch in 2019 posted about the Transgender Day of Visibility in 2019. This is Congressman Stephen Lynch. Again, people, stop falling for the misinformation. Stop falling for this MAGA dangerous narrative. These guys, I'm just going to let them just speak on it real quick. How dangerous supporting this narrative is. It drives me up a wall. R-Squared, I'm going to let you go first and then Kendi.
Yeah, I mean, this was the most offensive thing I've seen in quite some time, and that's saying something in this climate.
Oh, wow.
Because
Okay.
the intentional dishonesty and just the gross misinformation about faith, the bastardization of Christianity or any faith by these people, and then the fact that they embraced Trump, who's calling himself the next Jesus, right? I mean, it's what Trump is doing is offensive. He's not a religious person. He's never read the Bible. He doesn't go to church. He doesn't believe in anything. And yet they're embracing him and making up stories about Joe Biden. President Biden, despite anything you like or dislike about him, he is a legitimately religious person. He's a practicing Catholic. He regularly attends church. He knows the Bible. He knows his faith. He knows the holidays. He knows the rituals. He believes in that. And so, it was disgusting to see, the way that they would denigrate that. On Sunday, he read the proclamation. It takes about 30 seconds, like most proclamations, because that's the day that you do it, March 31st. You know what else he did that day? He went to Easter Mass, which obviously was much more than 30 seconds, right? That's an hour or whatever, at least. He did the Easter egg roll on, the White House lawn with all the kids, and he was out there participating and celebrating with them. So if you want to say that he was sacrificing Easter, he spent 90% of his Sunday doing Easter activities between church, between the kids coming to the Easter egg roll and everything else, and about 30 seconds on this proclamation. So, I mean, that's just why it's so offensive and so dishonest. And then you add in the fact that, Trump is the antithesis of everything religion. No matter what faith you practice, he's the opposite of its tenets. And just to embrace him with all of his character flaws, he's cheated on every one of his wives. He's cheated every one of his business partners. He lies so much they can't keep track anymore. I mean, the man, violates all 10 commandments on a daily basis, and yet they want to embrace him and then falsely criticize Joe Biden simply because the proclamation was read on March 31st, which is the day that it has been ever since its existence. One last point, because I don't want to give this more attention than it should get. If you look at the calendar, there's a listing you can find about, that we have 365 days a year, and every day is the day of something, right? We have so many things. There's National Chicken Pot Pie Day. There's National Cannoli Day. There's a day for everything you can think of. Somebody in Congress got it signed as a proclamation for that day because it's a harmless thing to do, right? So every day of the year, all 365 days of the year, there are 4 or 5 things that are that day. Now, some of them are very important, right? You've got, recognition of major, international events and things like that. Yep. And some of them are just fun. But the fact of the matter is there's multiple ones. Now, I'm not suggesting that the day of visibility for the trans community is not significant, but it's just, there were 5 other things that day too, right? I mean, so, when on Christmas, there must be something. On Christmas Eve, there's going to be something. On every holiday you could name, there are other things. I suppose you could, fluctuate the calendar, but we all know that would be a mess, right? It is what it is. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm. Ken, anything to add to that? Because it drove me up a wall to see people that I know on Facebook whining and crying. I'm like, just shut up, Oh, go ahead. I feel like another Ken Diesel, full Diesel now. I feel
okay. Another. I am so sorry that all of you people out there live such either perfect lives where the only thing you have to worry about is International Recognition of Trans Day, that you don't have to worry about food, shelter, clothing, taking care of children, or taking care of your elderly parents, or being active in your community, or doing that. That's the only thing you have to worry about. The rest of us poor slobs, Rob, Sinister One, and we have to go out and work for our freaking living. Like, go to work and be professional and take care of our parents and take care of our siblings and take care of our community, help feed the poor. I think that was in the Bible someplace. Check it out. And, I don't know, welcome the stranger or care for the sick. I'm pretty sure I read that someplace when I was younger. Okay? Look, now this is the Jew talking. So if I know this is going to be common knowledge.
Uh-oh.
Easter is the day you celebrate the resurrection of your Savior. Okay? Somehow, I don't think that's going to be affected by someone making a proclamation about the trans community. So if you're saying that a proclamation done by a mortal is going to crowd out a divine event where your Savior is resurrected from the dead, maybe you ought to check your priority list. Just a freaking suggestion.
Oh man! Look. Okay.
And by the way, here's something else you didn't mention. In addition to the International Trans Day, the right was going bonkers over the fact the White House had banned religious iconography, I think it's what they call it, on the X.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Pop quiz, genius. Who was the first president to issue that ban?
Harder.
Nope.
Ford.
Reagan?
Nope. You got it. It was Ronald Reagan. And has been honored by every single president since Reagan, including, wait for it, Donald J. Trump.
Oh man, good stuff. Look. Baltimore, Biden, Harris, White House, 60 million quick released in emergency funds. A major section of that bridge has been removed. Boats will resume traveling through that canal area as late as next week. The Army Corps of Engineers are out there. They're moving along fast. And I shared a great video from a merchant marine last week. If you didn't see it, check it out, because there were a lot of idiots and nitwits out there talking about that this was a false flag and this was it wasn't. The merchant marine breaks it all down. He talks about how they dropped anchor after they lost power. When power came back on, that's why the boat shifted. Just watch it, break it down, do your homework. But 60 million is on the way to Baltimore, and there's more money to come. But they did quick release 60 million in funding to help them down there in Baltimore. Also, I tried not to make this a narrative, but the Mexican president did come on and talked about the migrants who lost their lives, who were working on the bridge, filling potholes that night. Now, here's the thing, people, that when you watch this video that I talked about on YouTube, the crew of the ship, they gave the Mayday before anything. Once they lost power, once that ship lost power, they gave the Mayday. The order was told to clear the bridge. Traffic was actually stopped. They were able to stop the traffic. I don't know why. Only God knows why this crew was still on the bridge working, filling potholes. Even the detail had left. The problem here is that you have these migrant low-bid companies that bid these jobs and probably felt they were safe and stayed on the bridge. They didn't listen to the people who were there to clear the Mayday. They didn't listen to the police officers working the detail to clear the bridge. They stayed on the bridge. The bridge ended up collapsing. 2 of those have been found, and I believe there are 4 more still missing. 2 did survive. The Mexican president said this is the type of stuff that happens to migrants who come to this country and take jobs that want. We've said this on Ken, who knows about undocumented migrants. We talk about the fact that they take jobs that people don't want. But again, even though they take jobs that people don't want, these jobs should still abide by the rules set forth by OSHA and things of that sort in this country, period. So these type of tragedies don't happen, because this could have been avoided if they simply had cleared the bridge. Ken, did you want to add anything to this about these jobs that these low bid companies take? And this isn't the first time we've seen this. We've seen other tragedies here in Boston where low bid companies have undocumented workers. We had a whole collapse in downtown Boston. If people don't remember, a year ago, 3 migrant workers lost their lives. OSHA actually fined them because they didn't have the proper stuff in place. Go ahead, Ken.
Look, first of all, I wouldn't be surprised if no one on the bridge spoke Spanish. That's the other problem. Okay? Most of these migrant workers, and I don't know any of them, probably didn't speak English. Maybe one did. That's part of the problem. You have a language barrier because
they were from Honduras. They were all from Honduras. It was a family business, Honduras. So.
Right. And a lot of these firms, a lot of these contractors will subcontract out with employers to hire these people. And they do this because they can pay them substandard wages. And I honestly think people do this all the time. You want to crack down on undocumented workers in this country? Start throwing the people, not the subcontractor, but the contractor in jail. And the stockholders in jail. Because a lot of these major construction companies are Halliburton and other ones. You throw their director, their board of directors in jail, you'd be surprised how quickly the problem goes away.
Wow, crazy. We got to get ready to get out of here, but we just got a breaking story. It's not really breaking, but New York judge says Fire Department New York booing of Letitia James, pro-Trump chants are not about politics. This judge is saying it has to do about race. Brooklyn Federal Court Judge Nicholas Garifas cited the incident this morning involving members of the New York Fire Department booing State Attorney General Letitia James and chanting Trump's name is suggesting a racist culture persists at the FD New York Fire Department. If you guys don't remember the story, what has happened here is that on their fire truck, they had that black and white flag with the stripe, which this flag is new. This flag has just been out there for the last few years, this flag that's out there. This certain department is saying that flag was actually in memoriam of firefighters they lost in 9/11. Someone called them out and said BS. No, it's not. Saying that they're representing a culture. I was unaware that this flag with the stripe, the black and white American flag with the one colored stripe, I didn't know that was being used to hide in plain sight. If you guys can talk about that, I don't know.
No. What happened was that came from the Black the Blue movement, and it migrated into an anti-BLM movement, and now is closely affiliated with the Trump for America movement.
Is that so? Is it true that it's kind of progressed into this thing?
Yeah, it has. Yeah, it's been adopted or it's stolen, depending on by the America First movement, Trump supporting.
So almost similar to Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics had the symbol for the Punisher character, which was adopted by the white supremacist groups. Marvel quickly came out and said, hey, we're not going to sue these people for using it. What we're going to change the Punisher logo. That's what Marvel Comics did. They just said, we're just eliminating the logo and get a new logo. Squid, you want to add to this? I see you.
Yeah, no, I mean, both the blue and red flags did begin for legitimate purposes. This is the problem when people are able to misappropriate, right? This is what Trump and his supporters have done with multiple things. This is what we were talking about at the beginning of the show with some of the symbols, right? The Nazi swastika was an innocent Buddhist symbol that they stole in the first place. So, once something becomes associated, then it changes its meaning, right? So if you were to go to some Asian countries, you'll see swastikas out there on some of the older structures because it's not a swastika, it's a Buddhist symbol. So, you have to understand the relevance. And so, these firefighters probably were flying it legitimately, and that's what the commissioner said, and they've been given permission to do it. But it's more problematic on the police side because it did start off with, the concern for violence against police officers, but then it became more political, and then it became, misappropriated by the Trump forces where they used that flag. Right. And so, it's not like they have the right to say that this police flag now means pro-Trump and pro-racist and what have you. But unfortunately, so many Americans see that flag that used to be okay, now associated with, extremism. And so that's what they think it means. And so if somebody, police, fire, or some person living down the street from you is flying one of these flags, if you understand the context, you may assume, especially if they're your neighbor, that they're in support of somebody, which is okay. Or if you're more suspicious or you've seen, the portrayal of these flags by extremist groups, then you're going to assume that person down the street or what have you is a member of an extremist group, and you're going to be uncomfortable about it, and you're going to do something about it. And so that's why, it all goes down to the idea that we have to freaking communicate first before we start judging people. Because you see a flag like that and you may react and you may be right, but you may be wrong. And so we need to look at context. We need to give people an opportunity to show us what they think, who they are, kind of thing. Because if they're bad, we're going to find that out. If they're using it as an extremist, we're going to find that out. But let's not always assume the worst of somebody unless we have a reason to do that.
Right. All right. Cool. Well, we're at the end of the show. Get ready to let you guys know these are the hats and the beanies. Thank you, everybody, for all your support for this show, hanging out with us. We've got a lot of great things coming up this season on the booth. And I want to thank everybody for supporting Drafting the Circuits, which you guys can see on Wednesday night, Oscar Mike Radio on Thursday night, Fubar Studios and Homeland Salute on Wednesday nights before Drafting Circuits, Matty C Sports for You and me. Also, check out Platinum City Gaming, $30 full bar. As you can see there's a menu there, add-ons, steak, cheese subs, fried dough. Also, congrats to Boston Business Women Award winner Yaz Table, best South Shore restaurant. I got to get these guys over the Yaz Table. Me and Travis have been there several times. Also, the March 28th, I got to thank the Patriots for showing out. The Vietnam pinning ceremony for Vietnam vets took place last Thursday. It was a great event. They have pictures on their website. Also, it just closed out. Were you the one to win the $1 million in the 50-50 on DraftKings? Check out Fubar Studios and Dougie on Wednesday night. See maybe who won. Also, the month of April, 400-mile motorcycle challenge. I think I'm going to be taking this one to task. And unfortunately, we got crappy weather coming. April 2nd, today, till April 20th is the prom swap. If you've got clothing that kids can use for their formals and proms that are coming up, oh my God, please donate now. Also on May 4th is the 4th annual meet and greet, Northeast Slingshots. I'll be driving down there on May 4th, 151 East Street in Plainville, Connecticut. And also, Be the Difference to donate Give-a-thon for veterans. NASCAR is coming in to take some money. Donate for track time for veterans. Fubar Studios, May 14th to 15th. May 18th, the 2024 Influencer Awards takes place. Yana Marie is nominated for Best Female Hip-Hop Artist. That is May 18th. Also, the Wounded Vet Run takes place on Sunday, May 19th. That's a motorcycle ride. Kickstands up at 12:30. It's in its 13th year. And then Vampires vs. Zombies takes place May 25th in Boston. Again, I will be at Maggie Valley for the Slingshot Convention, which is 10th year. And then don't forget, people, you got till May 31st to ride those bat buses for free. Once May 31st hit, riding for free comes to an end. And then Ryan's Ride, June 22nd, New Hampshire, kickstands up, 11 a.m. Tickets right now are $25. Get in, get out, and help Homeland Heroes Foundation. That's it. I'm going to let my guys say their goodbyes. I'm going to start off with Ken Diesel first to say his goodbyes.
Well, I want to thank all of our listeners, all 12 of you. Happy belated Easter for those of you who celebrate. Happy Passover upcoming for those of you who celebrate. Guys, gals, others, be safe, stay informed, be good to each other.
Squid.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Another great show. Always a privilege to come on and talk about these important things. Stay safe.
Blessed. 8:30. I appreciate these guys coming on. I'm so happy that everybody in the chat loves these guys. Also, check out Squid writes a couple of pieces. You want to go over and make sure to like and follow the Corridor. He drops some great pieces over there from time to time. And other than that, I got to thank everybody for tuning in. SpongeBob, do me a favor. Take us home.
Well, see you next Tuesday.
Thank you for listening to The Booth on Hoobazoo and HatcherRadio.com. Please follow the Facebook page and subscribe to the podcast at Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. The Booth is a Sinister One production hosted by Sinister One.
I've got to start hanging out with friends that are a little more intelligent and understand politics and stuff. It's just that I'm up on this level up here, and all my friends are down here. Me, nah. You guys, nah. Maybe a little more down in here. Screw you guys, I'm going home.
I smoke, I drink, I do my thing. Don't do cocaine, but your chick, my main. We stick together, true forever, yeah, you know we bang. I miss those days, which was easy. If only I make it, keep this shit on repeat. Now that I done upgraded, I've been upstate, and y'all think I'm playing. And I got a hit now for these weak ass hoes who think I ain't slaying. Try me, and I'll probably end up laughing, cause I never back down. I'm that chick with a clean ass whip, I don't need that shit, it's like I'm my own now. I get hurt, I get tired of fussing, fighting, guess I gotta crack down. Don't mess with me, cause on everything, I'ma have to bring the whole city out.
WHOOBAZOO, that's Whoobazoo.com.
Enter website, enter website, enter website, enter website.